Hey, everybody! Tonight, Next Generation's The Inner Light. Stay tuned on Counterparts. Hey, good evening, everyone. John Henry Soto here, along with George Batista, and this is Counterparts. And we are very excited to be here again on another Tuesday evening. And this is one of our what we call in the business, it's a filler episode, right?
Yes.
So what you call a filler episode. You shoot a lot of these. So on weeks that things are people are busy, projects are getting done, you put in one of these episodes, and I'm very excited because tonight we have a great episode of the Next Generation. It's called The Inner Light. I saw it last night for the first time in a very long time, years, and just forgot how great it is. But we're going to talk about that as well. Please, if you enjoy what we do here every Tuesday night at 8 p.m., please like, share, and subscribe. We really appreciate it. The numbers have been growing. We want to thank everybody who's actually joined us and just showed us love. It's been like a great run for us so far. We got a lot more to do, a lot more to cover. And what else? We have also that we also love to we have this sexy model here that's modeling some of our new merchandise here. We have hoodies, we have t-shirts, we have mugs, we have cell phone covers, we have totes, we have mugs. Did I say mugs already?
Yes.
We have t-shirts and we have hoodies. So that actually helps the channel. It also helps promote, and I think it's actually pretty cool looking too. So it's kind of like fashionable, I think, in my opinion. So anyway, that's that. And what else do we got? We got our trivia question going. All right, folks. So this is the part of the show where George gives us the trivia, and I get it wrong. But it's become a tradition. The last couple of weeks, I think I've done okay. As a matter of fact, I think I got the last one, right?
Yes, you did.
I did get the last one,
Yes,
or at least, from this episode, I got one of the episodes.
Well,
not the last one, but I did get one of the ones recently where I think the answer was, forgot his name now. I got the answer right at the time, but at the time,
exactly. I would say within the last what 4 or 5 episodes, you've gotten at least maybe 3.
Yeah,
something like that.
It's not bad because I really, I've said this before, and I've told it to George. George is a huge Star Trek fan, and I love Star Trek, but I'm just not good at the names of things and what. Some people just have it. Oh, that was in the episode of this, and that was played by this guy and this guy. I'll get some of that, but not a lot. What I do remember a lot by episodes is the story, and I remember the directional, the choices that the director made on certain things, and some of the actors. So some of that stuff is like I always remember those things, those moments that really just hit me on Star Trek, and that's why I love Star Trek. So the trivia part, I suck, but everything else, I try to do my best at. So, all right, George. So it's trivia time, buddy. What do you got?
This is my favorite part.
Okay.
All right. Well, this trivia question, this one's going to be a tough one.
Oh boy.
Yes, it's going to be a tough one because you have to be you have to know your Trek if you get this one.
All right.
All right. So let's.
That should be the name of our trivia segment.
Know your Trek.
Know your Trek.
I like that. That's good.
Let's do that. Let's do that for future episodes.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you've really got to know your Trek. So here's this week's trivia question. This even kind of stumped me a little bit when I heard it or thought about it or heard it anyway. All right. So we know there have been many different enterprises, Starship Enterprises, right? There's been A, B, C, and D throughout the years, right? But the very first Starship Enterprise was NCC 1701. That was the main flagship, right? Well, now, here's the question. That specific ship, NCC 1701, no A, B, C, or D, how many captains of that ship were there? And who were they?
Oh, damn. I could only think of two, but if they're the most easiest ones. So that means that I'm wrong. All
Yeah,
right.
I tell you, it's gonna be a tough one. You got to know your Trek because there's a little trickiness in there too.
Yeah. All right,
So,
cool. All right, well, there you have it. That's our trivia question for the day. Good night, folks. So our next segment, we're doing news this week, George.
yeah, we got news.
All right, as we both drank at the same time. Silent air. All right, so let's do our what we like to call trivia. I mean, what we like to call news, because it's news. Counterparts Star Trek news updates with George Batista.
All righty. Well, this week's Star Trek news, it actually has to do with the episode. Well, part of it has to do with the episode that we're actually talking about, which is pretty cool. Okay. Yeah, it's actually pretty cool. So, starting this coming week, Prop Store, which is one of the big memorabilia stores online, is holding an auction of film and TV memorabilia. It's over 1,300 lots, expected to bring over $6 million worth of materials that are happening. Right.
Wow.
Now, some of the iconic pieces include, Harry Potter's wand and eyeglasses, Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber, Indiana Jones's fedora, and a bottle from I Dream of Jeannie. But one of the big props that is actually going for auction is lot number 242, which is Jean-Luc Picard's original Resican flute from the episode The Inner Light.
Nice. Wow.
Yes. Yeah. Now
That's so cool.
Yeah, this was originally sold by CBS at Christie's auction in 2006, but the flute comes complete with the box.
That same box that was in the episode?
The same box that was in the episode, right?
Wow.
And it's expected to bring $50,000 to $70,000.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, and it's being sold along with costume continuity script from The Inner Light as well. So that's pretty cool. And other pieces of Trek history that are also being auctioned, just by the way, is another piece is the light up interior structure of V'ger from the first movie, the motion picture, which measures over 7 feet long. And it's the only one of the few remaining things from the 1975 film. And it actually includes the lights and the cables and all the things. And this prop is they're estimating this piece that will sell over 20 to 30,000.
Wow. So the flute is like twice as much.
The flute is twice as much as the piece of from V'ger.
Because the episode is so great, and we're going to talk about it tonight.
Exactly. But now the weird part about this flute is that it doesn't even work.
Oh, really? It's not even a real flute.
It's not even a real flute.
It literally is a prop.
It's just a prop. Yeah.
Wow. And what's the name of that company that's doing it?
It's Prop Store. Prop Store. If you go to Prop Store online and you click on it, it actually has the big thing and it shows all the auction items and all that. So it's pretty cool. So
wow, cool.
Yeah. So that's very interesting. So that's
if anybody's in the market for a flute that doesn't work for $50,000, you can pick one up at the Prop Store.
Listen, it's about owning a piece of history, right?
I know.
That's what it's all about. So anyway, so yes, so that's this week's Star Trek news.
Awesome. Thank you very much. All right. So this episode, again, just recently watched it again for the first time, and I would say at least 3 or 4 months. No, just kidding. No, at least 6 years, at least 6, 7 years. And this was during a time when we were watching these episodes, because my wife got really into Star Trek for years, and we would just sit down and watch the episodes with our daughter when she was, like 3 or 4, and then when our son came, he, it kind of changed the dynamic, and we stopped. But we watched all the episodes. So I remember watching this episode, and it's one of those episodes that makes you think of not only the episode itself, but it ties into so many different lost cultures,
right?
Lost to and we're gonna explain why in a minute. But That's what it really got for me. Like all the civilizations that we just never got to experience, and that just were lost through, some of them through diseases. Actually, a lot of civilizations were killed through diseases. Some of them were also just through bad hygiene, bad things like that. So it just made me think about all those civilizations, and this was such a great way of actually keeping them alive the way they actually did, the way
Exactly.
they did it. Although it was a little invasive, you know.
Right.
But
Right.
anyway, George, give us a little breakdown of what the gist of the episode is.
So the episode is that the Enterprise encounters a probe. Basically, it's a
That never happens in these.
no, it never happens. But it's a probe, and what this probe does. Well, in the beginning, in the beginning of the episode, it looks, yeah, it's kind of weird looking, right? The way
Yeah,
it's
it looks.
shaped and all
I
this.
don't know really what it looks like. It looks like one of those dice, when you're like
Right.
roll the jacks and the ball and stuff.
Exactly. So it encounters this probe, and the probe ends up, I guess, for lack of a better term, it scans Jean-Luc Picard and basically kind of like knocks him out in the middle of the
It
bridge.
creates
A beam of light.
a light that connects. It's almost like like what do you call those lights? Like not what do you call those? Never mind. Go ahead.
Anyway, yeah, it creates kind of like a beam of light that attaches to Jean-Luc Picard. And he's completely
Fiber optic.
There you go.
Like a fiber
optic light, right? So, and he's out. So now he's out, and they have no idea what's going on, and they can't resuscitate him. And we've come to find out that this probe is actually transports Picard's mind, consciousness
awareness,
into a completely different world where he actually is a different person, where he's actually living a life.
And he's well known. He's
well known.
Know who he is. He's not famous. I mean, but he's part of the community.
Exactly. He's a known person. And the funny thing is that now he wakes up, he's there. He has this awareness of his Jean-Luc Picard life, but yet he's known by another name. He's got a wife. He's got a whole community of people that know him, and they've known him for a long time.
A job.
Yeah, he's got a job. Literally, he's got a life. And he's like, I don't understand. And he's like, I want to get back to, my life. And he's asking all these questions. And his wife is like, this is your life.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it blows you away in the beginning because you don't know what's going on in the beginning of this episode. Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like,
so basically, in the beginning of the episode, he gets kind of beamed, and he gets knocked out. And the one thing that Dr. Crusher finds out is that he's still thinking. There's still a lot of activity going on, of brain activity going on, because he's kind of living in this world that this probe brought him to. So he's seeing his whole what do you call it? Brain waves and stuff like that. It's still activated, right? And so when he gets there, this is one of the scenes, and he actually first he does MC Hammer. He does an MC Hammer, like dun 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 Picard, and then he meets this woman, and this woman played beautifully by, what's her name, Margot Rose.
Margot Rose, yeah.
And she's like, she's like trying to console him. What's the matter? You've had a fever for a week, and but I'm your wife. This is the actress that played Margot Rose, who is great.
Yeah, she's really, really good.
Yeah, she's here seen in the middle there. And I love the clothing.
Yes.
I love Star Trek clothing.
Yeah.
Like when they go to another planet for another, it's all they're always like very neutral colors. They're a lot of browns, a lot of dark greens, maroons.
Yeah.
There's nothing bright. So they always so it just cracks me up. But the thing that he meets his friend here, who is played by a veteran actor named Richard Raheel. And Bataille is his name.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of those actors that you've seen, like everybody has seen for, he plays in, he's just a character actor. He's been around a long time, played a lot of different things. And so he meets him, and they're kind of like best friends and stuff. And he's confused. Picard has no idea what's going on. He's in this life that everyone seems to know who he is, yet he knows no one.
Right.
He finally comes to terms with the fact that this is it, because it's days are going by. Days are going by. Days are going by. And Picard actually then decides that he wants to have children with his wife. And what was his wife's name? Was Aline.
Elise or Aline?
It's Eline.
Okay, it's Aline. Aline, I guess. Yeah.
And they end up having children, right? They have, I think,
they have two kids.
Right?
Two kids,
boy and girl.
Right.
And so Picard ends up living in this world, and he lived his whole life in this world. He lived a full life here. This is what blows me away. Like, he actually grows old in the in this world, and what and this is him, like, when he was really old,
right?
And what really blows me away was how a culture knew, because what happened was that there was a meteor or something that was going to hit this planet and destroy it, destroy pretty much a few planets in this sector of the galaxy. And Picard had actually figured it out, because of course he is Picard and he is a smart guy, and he figured out that this was happening. So he was telling the councils, who were rather dismissive of him in the beginning. I think as the years went on, he became more of a scholar in the community, and people respected him more, which, as you would imagine, Picard in any culture would command some type of respect. You drop Picard anywhere. Right. I think Picard probably more than any other captain, if you think about it. I just thought about this myself. But if you grab any captain and you throw him into, I think the only ones that would really adapt and become like so successful would be Picard, and I think Janeway, because I think Kirk would just be so pissed off.
yeah, you're right. You're right.
He'd be like, just like over, he'd want to get out. He'll try to figure out a way. He's not going to fall into this trap. He wants to find out what's going on. Why am I here? Why did you bring me here? He'll try to figure out something like that. Whereas Picard, I think, would at some point realize, I have to make do with this situation. I think Janeway would do the same thing. I think Cisco would probably go the other way also, like Kirk. He'd be like, "What am I doing here?" That was like more like Picard. But and I don't know about Jonathan. I don't know what he would do, but
he might be more like Kirk. I think
he would be more like Kirk, because he's also the first captain. He's the first guy up there. He doesn't want to be trapped in some planet with a lot of neutral colors. Nobody wants to be trapped in a planet with neutral colors.
Hate when that happens.
But yeah, I'm sorry.
No, but I was gonna say, but he does spend the first 5 years of his life trying to figure out why, right? He's because she even says it at one point. You could see him getting older. This was before he decided, let's have kids. And she says, you spent the last 5 years talking about this ship, talking about this other life. When are you going to let it go? Right. She asked him that, right? And he, and this is when he really it clicks for him, and he decides, yeah, you know what? I do need to let this go, because it's not fair to my wife what I've been doing.
Right. And 5 years is a long time to spend in one place.
Right.
Where you're sleeping, you're eating, you're waking up, you're working, you're talking, interacting. That's a long time to be somewhere where you literally just got there.
Exactly. Exactly. So, and he also realizes that he can affect change there. Right. That also comes to him. It's important because in the beginning they were talking about the crops and the droughts and the things that were happening, and in the beginning he was like very indifferent to it. He was like whatever, but then he starts to come around and say, you guys need, this is my idea. This is what you guys need to do. This is how you fix this situation.
Right. Let's build a condenser.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. Whatever it is. And so he does tend to in the beginning kind of really fight it, and then when he finally opens up, and not opens up, but I think he kind of just comes to the realization that this might be it. Right. Whatever happens, he took the risk of joining Starfleet, And when you do that, you have no idea if you're going to come back or not, right? You
Right.
have no idea
Right.
what's going to happen. And he just decided at that point that you're right, it's not fair to his wife. His wife Aline was very nice. She was actually super nice, right?
Yes.
She was
Right.
a very, very nice, good wife. She was cute, which is
Yeah.
always nice because that would suck if you'd be in this life with an ugly chick. But she was cute, and then their two kids, were really great and grew up to be very. Because he grew up in this, but he got it to see his kids
Hmm.
growing up, And he says at one point, he said, "I thought I would never really need to have children,
Right.
but
Exactly.
now I can't imagine my life without them."
And this I thought that was very powerful, and I thought this was
Yeah,
a big message in this show, because Picard is known for not liking children.
right.
Right, but he's very
Being
standoffish when it comes to
uncomfortable,
kids.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
he's very
yeah,
uncomfortable around kids. Even when Wesley Crusher was on the bridge, he was very uncomfortable in his interactions with Wesley
right,
Crusher.
right,
So now he's in a situation where he's like, I have to have kids, and he's
right,
already getting older, right? And you're right. His wife was so good to him.
yeah,
She went through 5 years of this, and she keeps saying, "When are you going to do?" And basically, she's like, "I'll do anything for you,
yeah, yeah,
whatever."
yeah,
And he's like, "Let's do it. Let's have kids." And then they have kids, and he becomes a great father,
yeah. A good
and
role
something
model,
that he never thought he would be.
right,
And he's living this other life that you would never. I mean, this literally, it's a weird thing how they give Jean-Luc Picard a family, which you never thought you would ever see Jean-Luc have.
right,
You know,
right. And some of the interesting parts about what you said about he's always been standoffish around children. The episode that we just covered called Family, I think it answers a lot of the reasons why. I think his
right?
father was tough on them. He had a rough child, not a rough childhood, like he was abused, but he joined Starfleet, where it's like not something you do. You go into the family business like his brother did,
Right.
like Robert did and stuff. So I think that kind of ties into like, this episode, or at least it gives you an idea of some of the backstory of why he's always been standoffish on children. And here he makes this tough decision, knowing that he's going to be here and that he might be able to have children now because he
Hmm.
doesn't have the responsibilities of being commanding a ship. So I think that's actually really big on his part to say, let's do it, let's do it. I mean, literally and
Exactly.
figuratively. And they had these two beautiful kids, which was great to see him as a father, like disciplining his son, and also having that tough conversation with his son because his son wanted to be a musician,
Right.
and he told him he's leaving school, and he's like, leaving school. It was like, he goes, no, you're not. And he told him, and then he finally kind of realized, he just wants him to be happy and to do. Who am I to say, not, what he should do or not? As long as he's a important part of society.
Exactly.
And he has some growth there a lot as well.
And that's one of those important parts of, just as a parent, right? You look at that situation, and you kind of put yourself in that position, as when we're parents, and if our kid comes to us and says, hey, this is what I want to do, and this is, we may or may not agree with what they want to do,
Right.
but like you said, that growth inside of you that says, you know what, but you want your child to be happy. You want them to, there's no reason why this child cannot be a productive member of society in whatever they're doing.
Right. 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 And
So
it's also because, as a parent, you don't want like Brianna, my daughter Brianna, and my son Ben, but Brianna is more like, she's very like me as far as wanting to be into the creative things. You know
mhm,
what I mean? And me having been now almost 15 years, I mean, playing music longer than that, with George and I were in a band, in case anybody wants to know that. We played in a band together for a very long time. And, but after that band life stuff, I got into film and stuff and realized how hard that life is. So sometimes you start thinking like she's going to go through some of the
right,
things that I went through.
right,
I was like, man, you do not, sometimes people say, what's your advice to young people, and I'd say always follow your heart.
right,
If you want to do it, if you think about it, if you wake up in the morning and all you think about is acting or dance, and that's all you ever think about, and you're reading books and you have to do it. You
mhm,
owe it to yourself, And I think Picard never really had the desire to have children
mhm,
until that moment because he
right,
knew he had an opportunity now. There was something there, and the family unit became real to him. I
Exactly.
remember he never had the family unit. Other, I mean, you can say that the crew is his family, but a real family unit.
Mhm.
Someone that you lay down with every night, that you talk to about your what you're feeling. Someone who brings you food. Someone who nurtures you. You know what I mean? And that someone that you're there for as well. That responsibility that you have to be there for someone. I think he realized that how special that connection is,
Mhm.
and he thought, wow, I mean, this is what it must be like. What must it be like to have children?
Right.
Let's bring that into the mix. I think that was really a really awesome thing that he did, and it was just great to see him, and then eventually see him with his grandchild, because then
Exactly.
he had a grandchild, which was I think in this scene right here where he was playing with his grandkid and stuff, which is pretty cool.
But one thing you said that kind of hits me, and it does make sense, and I didn't think about it till you brought it up, is when you take Picard and you drop him into a situation, and he does, and like he's gonna figure out how to be successful in that situation. He
Right,
figures out how to be a great father, how to be
right,
a great grandfather, how to be a great member of the community, just like he figured out how to be an amazing starship captain, and
right,
how to affect that job that he's got. You
right,
put in any situation, he's
right,
got that mind, that keen mind. I remember the Kardashian once said that you have a keen mind,
right,
right? He's got a way of figuring it out and saying, okay, let's take the best of the situation, and he elevates himself in that
right.
situation.
And I think that's the thing about, like, people who are gonna win.
Right.
Like, you
Yeah.
can go back and you can read stories and biographies, and over. You can read Oprah Winfrey's backstory. Everybody that you can imagine, you read their backstory and you see how they struggled, but they always managed to make a really bad situation. I mean, Oprah went through some really tough
Yeah.
times,
Yeah.
early on as a kid, and she was able to just still overcome these obstacles. And I think somebody like Picard, that character like Picard, um, is just somebody who always is going to win.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
just going to win. And I think, going back a little bit, I said, Kirk and all these guys, I think they'll also find ways to win.
Mhm.
I'm just looking at it as like a diplomat, like
Mhm.
he's very diplomatic.
Mhm.
He's there now, becomes a stellar member of the community. He becomes respected, as you knew he would.
Right.
And I think I think all the captains have that quality in them.
Right.
They're just going to be probably a little bit of a different to get there. It'll be a little
Mhm.
bit different to get there. I think he's more civilized,
Correct.
just from the get-go. And but yeah, it was a wonderful episode. And the culture, what I was going to say earlier, that I kind of, like, I don't know, I sidestepped somewhere, but what I was going to say was that the culture a culture knowing that they're going to be destroyed. They
Right.
know it.
Yeah.
They know it. And instead of they know that this is going to happen, and instead of them giving up, they say, okay, well, we are going to go down. We know
Mhm.
we're going to succumb, but we want people to remember who we were,
Exactly.
what we were about, what our culture was about, what our desires were, how we operated on a daily basis. How are we going to do that? And they figured out a way to do that. And
Mhm.
this was like a wonderful way that they, and yes, it was invasive, right? Because, I mean, Picard is just standing on the bridge of his ship, and
Mhm.
so he's like, whoa, until he goes down, and he basically goes to sleep. Um, Now he has this whole life, right? And at the end of the episode, they kind of tell him, right? They kind of open up to him and they tell him what the actual reason why he's there, to go and tell. This is the scene here where they're telling him, tell them who we are, tell them what we're about,
Right.
so people do not, so our lives aren't lived in vain, so people can actually know about this whole culture.
Right. Well, even like before that, Picard experiences death. Right. His wife gets old. His
That's
wife
right.
gets
That's
sick.
right. That's right.
Okay.
Sick and
His
die.
wife his
Right.
wife gets sick, and she dies, and he's devastated by this, and he's got to, so now, and his grandchildren are there, and he's got to be strong for his kids and his grandkids, and luckily he's got really good kids. The girl, the daughter comes in and she's there and she's helping him out and all that type of stuff. But he experiences that, that
Mhm.
he's, the so. And that changes him too. Now, as you said, as towards the end of the episode, you realize that the reason why they do this is exactly that, is because they want to pass along what happened. Okay. And they say, this is the way we know how to get the message for us out there, and what happened, because people will not know who we were and what we did.
Right.
So
it was very special, that the way they did that and the way they shot this episode. I think Picard, you have to also think about what he's going through, because now he was out for only about 25 minutes or something.
Right, exactly.
And in those 25 minutes, he lived
a lifetime,
a whole lifetime.
Yeah.
And had kids and grandkids and stuff. So he's waking up, not, just coming from that. It didn't go away. It stayed with him, every single memory, everything, And so when he gets up, he has that incredible moment of like looking at Riker and the doctor and being like, like, what's going on? And then he realized, oh, I'm Picard, and he realized it. But in his mind, he just spent probably, I would say 50 years at least, in another world, living a whole other life.
It is weird. It's like, I mean, you can't really compare it that way, but you could say like the closest thing is like if you have a dream, and that dream seems like
he did a lot, and
like it was days or weeks long, and you just realize it was a dream, and you're like, holy cow, I felt like I was doing it forever, or whatever it was,
Yeah, and a lot of things like this. I mean, this has been used before on Star Trek, and just even in regular. I can remember 2 occasions of one when Miles on Deep Space Nine was sent to like a prison, and he had to do 20 years. But it was really only like a few hours
exactly.
In the thing. And it was actually, he came back like he had spent 20 years in prison, which is really horrible, because he woke up and he was just terrified. And then I remember the last episode of Newhart. I don't know if you remember that.
Where everything was a dream.
Yeah, where he wakes up and then he's back at the first Newhart show that he did in the 70s.
Yeah.
And which was like, one of the greatest endings in TV history. But it was like so freaking cool. That nobody knew that. The studio audience didn't know that they were doing that ending.
Really?
For the Bob Newhart show.
Oh, wow.
It was just Newhart, and they're like looking, and the lights turned on, and then his wife is there, that from the 70s show.
Wow, that's
and
right.
The audience goes insane. The audience goes nuts. As a matter of fact, they had to cut because the audience was just clapping so long. They had to actually cut because it was too long. Too long to go. But yeah, it's pretty cool. So I mean, that has been used before, But I think, for my money, I think this was used. I think it was the best in any of those that I just spoke about, use of that, because it really it also, for me as a Picard fan, it also made me feel happy that he got to experience children.
Right. And I think that's what made it made it
special.
big, because it's one thing if you put a character into a situation like that and they're experiencing different things.
Right.
But he's experiencing the one thing that he's never ever experienced before, and the one thing that has come up in other conversations and things where he said he never had time for, and they actually put him into that situation.
Yeah, and it might be that I mean, that obviously, because that connected to their brain waves and whatever it is whatever that what do you call it, the thing floating in space, what's it called? The probe. That whatever the probe had in it was able to read the thoughts and the desires and whatever it was, and put him in a situation where he can have those joys. So this way, it's not so invasive, right? Because it's taking you to somewhere you wanna go and you wanna be.
Absolutely.
Like for me, it would be like a pumpkin patch growing pumpkins. That's where I would go, because that's something I've always wanted, to grow a pumpkins.
Okay. Hey, we all have our thing, right?
We all have our thing. All I gotta say is dun 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 dun. Picard.
One of the reoccurring themes also, and we talked about it earlier, was he he played a flute in
Right.
this
And he
episode, right?
learned.
And he learned how to play this
He
flute.
did his whole life.
In the beginning, as he started playing, he said, "Oh, when did I learn how to play?" And she says, "Well, dear, you never really learned how to play."
Right.
And he was like, "Yeah, you're right. I couldn't." But as time went along and as the years went along, he got better, right? He
Yeah.
practiced,
Yeah.
and there were situations where he was sitting there and he's saying, "I'm immersed in my music,"
Right.
you know, and
Right.
he's just,
Yeah.
and that was kind of a getaway for him,
Yeah.
right? I mean, this is how music has always been for me, right?
Me too.
A
Me too. I was just
getaway,
gonna say that.
whether it's guitar or drums or whatever, or just even listening,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
I
know.
mean, I think George, I think you and I share this, and I think we've talked about this. I'm not sure, but like when you're listening to a song and somebody interrupts you,
Oh yeah.
isn't that? And I don't think anyone who loves music that the way we do. I don't think if they don't love music the way we do, they don't understand that.
No,
Like in the
no,
middle of a song, especially when you're just, it doesn't even matter if it's something that, it could be any song.
right.
You just love this song, what I mean? And you just want to hear this song. And then somebody goes, "Hey, John, do you want to order out tonight?" I got to go back.
Let me tell you
I got to go
something.
back and find that wherever I was lost in, I got to go find that moment again. And sometimes it's not easy.
I'm so glad, because I thought it was only me.
No.
Because let me tell you something. This happens to me a lot. I'm driving, and I'm driving with my wife, and my daughter's in the back with her headphones on, so she's in another world. But I'm driving and I'm hearing the song, whatever song it is,
Yeah,
right?
it could be anything.
And
Friday night, it was late. I was walking home.
exactly, but it just happens to be and I've heard the song a million times,
right.
but I could literally, I can write the chart to it,
Right.
just by myself. That's, but it's there, right? And I'm driving, so of course the volume goes up, and I'm like, right, and all of a sudden my wife was like, the other day, when blah, 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 and I'm like, oh, and now I'm trying to be.
I don't. I
I'm
don't anymore. I
I'm
used to.
I'm trying to be, I don't want to like flip,
Right.
but I'm like, so my, I'm like, and then the volume goes up a little higher, and I'm trying to sing, and she's like, but so then the other day, and I'm like, damn it, and
Well, hopefully she won't watch this episode.
yeah, hopefully
But
not. But I think, what,
no,
I'm
I do
glad,
it.
because I thought I was the only person on
Nah,
the planet
dude,
that was
you're
had this
definitely not
happen to.
alone. You're definitely not alone in that. It's something that we definitely have in common. And with my wife, we actually have an understanding now, but because we've been together for 20 years, been married 18 years, we have a good relationship, and honesty is always the best thing, you know what I mean? So I just tell her, I was like, listen, I can't listen to you. So I said, what you need to do is ask me, are you listening to me? And I'm going to tell you if I really am or if I'm not. And that's what we do now. So now I'll be playing something and I'm listening to it. I have like a little earpiece that I put into in the kitchen. Like if I'm cooking, it's just an earpiece and I got music going while I'm cooking, and they got their own thing going. But then as soon as somebody interrupts me and I'm like, I'm listening, I'm like trying to listen. And then she's like, are you listening to me? And I'm like, nope. Let the song finish and I'll be right with you.
It's so funny. I mean,
yeah,
she does. And the weird thing is that I think she gets it with Rush, because for some reason when Rush comes on, there's silence. But like, so I think because maybe the over obsession that I have, I guess she knows that. But with anybody else, it's like there's an interruption there. But it's just I just think that's so funny. But
I think it does tie in, and as everyone knows, if you watch our shows, our goals in the show is to build a bridge between Star Trek and everything else, and this is why we talk about these things and we go off on these tangents, because they're not really tangents. They actually tie into the fact that Picard was so obsessed with this flute, it would transport him to another world.
Right.
And the wonderful thing about it now is at the end of the episode, he gets back because they put the actual flute with the box inside the probe. So when the probe came and found him again, it kind of went full circle in some crazy way. The flute was in that probe, and so now he has the flute and he's able to play this flute, which really doesn't work.
right, but it's amazing because he's able to play
He's
it
able to play really well now, and he can
with
actually
with
with
with no
ease.
issue.
Yeah.
He could play it with ease, which
And
is
it's his
very, very
escape,
interesting.
which he really needed that. I mean, you think
He did.
about being the captain, and so now he has these wonderful experiences of being a father, being a grandfather,
Right.
being able to play the flute. The telescope that he made and all that stuff, and all that. He has all those experiences now. That even the experience of losing a loved one,
Mhm.
like a wife and stuff, he has that experience, which is
Right.
not a good experience to have, but you have them, and at least you experience that emotion.
Right, exactly.
Um,
There, there's for me that and there's one scene that I like that when he's talking to his daughter, and his daughter is now getting into science and she's getting into research, and he's talking to her, and he like she repeats she repeats what he tells her. She
right,
says, yes, I know, a good scientist, this is what they do and this is how
right,
they work. And you can see how well he taught her
right,
how
yeah,
to do these things, and exactly
yeah,
the philosophies. And this is, I mean, the gathering of not only his years of being in this world, but his years of being Captain Picard,
Captain
all
Picard,
these
yeah,
years, because it's again 2 lifetimes worth of wisdom that
right,
he has in his brain
yeah,
that he's giving to this young lady.
yeah, yeah. It's great, and it also helps him with his conversation with his son.
Exactly.
He knows what the flute does. At that point, he was a player,
Right.
and he played, and it transports him, it relaxes you. Music just does that. Music
Music definitely does that.
the solvents to everything. As a matter of fact, music is the one constant on the planet. And I'm going to get really deep here for a second, but music is the one constant on the planet that everyone has. Every culture, every single culture, every place on the planet has music.
Right.
Not everyone has the same kind of food. Not everyone has the same kind of dress. The same kind of dynamics between the family unit. But this is one thing that is, they cannot explain. People that are evil cannot explain music, because music is the one thing that cannot be destroyed, because it goes through the whole planet, is full of frequencies, and that's all
Right.
music is. Music is frequencies, it's vibrations, that make you feel good, and that's like an important thing.
Well, to me, it's like, I mean, you have language, which is the main form of communication, right? But music is right under language as the other form of communication, if you think
I would
about
I
it.
would
Right?
even say music is one, because
Yeah,
if you and I don't speak the same language, but you pick up a guitar and play a D chord, I know you played a D chord.
that's very true.
You
That's
know what I
very
mean?
true.
And
You're
it's
yeah,
like,
you're
so
correct.
and
You're
even if you
correct.
hear somebody singing in another language, what I mean, which I've heard many times. You hear
Right.
like Josh Groban
Mm,
singing in Italian. I don't speak
right.
Italian, but some of the words kind of sound like Spanish, I guess. But you can appreciate that. Pavarotti singing in Italian. I mean, you can
Mhm,
appreciate that. You know what I mean?
mhm.
So I think that music, the vibrations that music creates, the aesthetics of what music is, I think it's the most powerful thing on the planet. But
Well,
I've always said that.
well, yeah, it makes sense because also you have music that doesn't have lyrics. You have instrumental music, jazz music, for
Right?
example,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is even classical music
Right. I
that
mean,
is extremely powerful, right?
right.
I
I mean,
mean,
you look at Miles Davis. I mean,
right.
you know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's like that music right there transcends all cultures and
absolutely.
everything. So yeah. So anyway, this is a music episode. So let me show everybody how to do a D chord. Let me get my guitar. Um, so that was a great episode.
Absolutely.
Great
That was an
episode.
excellent episode. There's a
Let me give
lot
some
of
props to a couple of people here, so we
yeah,
could
definitely.
it was directed by, oh, this last name is hard, but is by Peter Lor Loritzen.
Lauritsen.
Loritzen.
Yeah,
Peter Loritzen.
who actually directed many other episodes. I think
Other
I either directed or produced other episodes as
other
well.
episode, yeah.
Yeah.
And this actually, one of the writers was Gene Roddenberry for this episode, by the way. This
Ah,
was in
nice,
1992.
nice.
He was still with us. Gene Roddenberry, Morgan Gendel, Peter Allen Fields, and there's more writers on this actually. Story by Morgan Gendel and Brannon Braga.
Braga.
Braga was one of the staff.
Brandon Braga is another guy who is well
Yeah, he
known
was.
in the Star Trek
Yeah,
universe.
he for some reason was uncredited,
Really?
but his name is on the thing. It says he's a show staff writer,
Mhm.
so he might have just kind of contributed by saying, "Hey, he should say the."
Yeah, but
In this.
Brandon Braga actually, when you by the end of the Next Generation, is one of the top names
Hmm. Yeah,
associated
he's a
with.
staff writer, so it makes
Yeah,
sense that he would have just done
yeah,
more and more.
exactly.
Um, but yeah, some of the let me see, some of the writers, the stars, of course. But yeah, this episode originally aired May 30th, 1992. Was a great episode,
Absolutely.
and 45-minute episode. It's 45 minutes. You really have to know how to craft.
Yeah,
Because people don't understand. People who are not into like film and stuff like that, or TV shows, don't understand that when you're crafting something, you can write a story, and if you're going to go shoot the story, it's going to be 4 hours long,
right.
because you want to put certain things in there. You're going to put, and so when you're crafting things, you have to craft it like they're puzzles. Pieces of every scene is like a piece of the puzzle,
Mhm.
and every scene kind of has to create an arc to create this storyline,
Right.
and it has to resolve by a certain time. Like some of the best ones, I think, if you watch like Law and Order episodes and all those kind of TV shows, they kind of have the same arc for a lot of the show. That by 23 minutes in that we're going to find out a clue on something.
Right.
By 47 minutes in that the whoever that did the crime is going to be found out, right?
Right.
You kind of have all these things because that's how they write them. But the Star Trek, the Next Generation, and even the original series had a different arc where they really tricked you into
Mhm.
not knowing exactly where it's going to go, but knowing that there's an arc there. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
And
Right. Right.
and actually, Law and Order SUV was really good. They
SU,
actually did. What did I say?
SUV.
Oh yeah, we've been looking at SUVs to buy in when I move. SVU. When you look at that series, man, they did a good job on that series
Mhm.
as
They
well.
did
But
definitely.
Star Trek has always had a history of just the story and really making it so tight. In 45 minutes, you got the full effect of the story. There was nothing missing. It didn't seem like there was any lack of anything.
Exactly. One of the things that I like about this episode and a lot of these Next Generation episodes and a lot of Star Trek episodes in general, like I call, well, in music or in drumming, right? In drumming, there's a thing called wasted motion,
Ah,
where let's say, and I don't know why I'm thinking about this, but it just comes to my head when you have let's say your cymbals are too high or too far, and you're going too far
yeah, yeah.
to get them. So you're wasting motion. You're creating motion that's kind of taking away from the overall
Right,
structure of what you're trying to do. Well, in the episodes like this episode, there's no wasted motion. There's no
right,
wasted
right,
time.
right,
Every little scene, and it's edited beautifully.
right.
Every little scene runs perfectly into the next scene. Like they show him growing, and you know exactly what's going on, and
Right, right.
and we talked about this in one of our previous episodes
Yeah.
about the beauty of the way they edit some of their
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I think the reason that they're so good at the editing part is because they realize, and I think good writers do this in good films, that if you're telling a story about one guy,
Mhm.
just one guy, you can have longer scenes. You can have because you have one guy, you know what I
Right.
mean? And that's the exploration of this one guy's thing, right? But if you have a lot of characters and you have a lot of things going, you can't show every single character and have their whole backstory and but you want to,
Right.
right? But so what do you have to do? Well, then you got to go into the writing. The
Mhm.
writing has to quickly show you who this guy is,
Right.
who and what's going to happen, or you get another character to talk about that character. So when the
Okay.
character comes
Right.
in, we already know the character's background. Well, this guy, he's always with his he's always with his juggling, and he's always talking about that same girl. That's what he always does. So when the
Mhm.
character comes in, we already know the guy likes juggling, he's talking about a girl all the time, and
Okay.
that's his so you see, so when you do it that way, and Star Trek does that a lot. They
Yes.
did that with his son.
Right.
Remember,
Right.
he was playing in the back, and they were having a conversation about his son. So by the time he came in, you already knew that what his son was about, so that is like, that's a great example what you gave there, because it is, wasted motion. It's like wasted scenes.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's like wasted scenes. Like, sometimes I watch a movie and I'm thinking, why did, and it's usually a bad movie. Good movies don't do that, but a bad movie would be like, they'll have a scene where the guy goes in and buys a pack of cigarettes and has a conversation with somebody and then leaves. And you're like, maybe that guy's going to come back later. But then the whole thing finishes and you're like, we never saw that guy. That was a wasted scene.
Yeah. Why is that? Exactly.
They could have shown him coming out of the grocery store with the pack of cigarettes going like this. That would have solved the whole thing of him having that he went to the grocery store and bought cigarettes. You know what I mean? That just quick like that, in like in 5-second scenes, you can actually resolve that. So sometimes that happens. But with Star Trek, it seems like they're just very, very good at molding these episodes. Not all of them, obviously.
No, of course,
I mean? But I think for the next generation, I think did a better job at molding every single episode.
Yes.
The first 2 seasons, I know they were rough, but than the original series. I think the original series had some real clunkers. And I think the reason that they had clunkers was because it was towards the end. They were trying to get picked up again. There was a lot of turmoil going on with that, which kind of makes sense. But they did a great job with this episode, really tying it together. And a lot of the direction, the angles that they take, I think were just really just great.
I agree.
Can't get over that. When I first saw him, I was like, what is he wearing? But this was 1992. But wasn't
MC Hammer was what,
Hammer out around that time?
Yeah, he was actually. Yeah, you're right. He was around 91, 92. That was around that time. The futuristic costumes, I guess. I mean,
but this civilization wasn't really. I guess they were sort of like back. They weren't necessarily. They had enough technology to shoot up a probe, which
that's very true.
That eventually got Picard. But yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, even if you look at the clothing Riker and stuff like that, I mean, those are like uniforms, what I mean?
Right.
So, but whenever they go out somewhere, they wear pretty much casual clothes,
I don't know what Jean-Luc. I don't understand what Jean-Luc wears when he goes to sleep. I don't know if you've seen his little outfits.
It's like a V.
Out,
nice and baggy, silky. I mean, I'm looking at that stuff thinking that's got to be comfortable. I wouldn't mind wearing that. You know what it is? He likes comfort. You know what I mean? He likes comfort. He wants his Earl Grey tea, puts on his PJs, plays his flute, and he's ready to go, man. He's cool. Picard. All right, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The episode, the inner light, Next Generation, Jean-Luc Picard. Great episode. Check it out if you haven't checked it out. I think it's an episode that does stand on its own. You don't need a backstory on it. The episode, you can tell somebody, watch the Inner Light, you're gonna like it. You're not gonna miss anything from the previous episodes. So
exactly.
Yeah. All right. So we're at this point where we're reaching the trivia moment, where I have no clue. I mean, but anyway, George, why don't you tell us once again what the trivia is?
Okay. I have no idea how I look forward to this. These
I know
spots.
You do.
It's so much fun.
But be wrong.
Yeah, true. But yeah. So anyway, so we have the Enterprise NCC 1701, which was the original Starship Enterprise. Now, that Enterprise, just that ship, no other Enterprises. Okay, we're just talking about that ship. How many captains, official captains, were there of that ship, and who were they?
All right. Now I'm gonna guess the two that I know, which would be Kirk,
right,
and Pike.
Correct. Those are two.
They're the only two that I could think of, because now I'm like, who the hell?
Okay, so
now is this kind of a trick question?
It is, but again, this is why I said that you really have to know your Star Trek.
Because I can pick one more. Spock.
That's number 3. You are correct. He was captain of the Enterprise.
He was. I
in
remember that.
Star Trek 2. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. But there's even more trickery.
Ah, geez. More than 3 or more? I mean, more than 4?
There's 5.
Really?
Yes.
Holy commando.
Yes. So, but you did get 3. So we have Pike,
Nice.
Kirk, and Spock. Okay. Now, here's I'm gonna say this as like a did you know, John? Did you know that when Gene Roddenberry first thought of Star Trek and first wrote Star Trek, the very first, I guess, words he wrote, the captain of the Enterprise was not Captain Pike. It was not Captain Kirk.
Oh.
It was actually Captain Robert April.
Oh.
That was the original captain of the Starship Enterprise, NCC 1701. And according to Star Trek canon, Star Trek Encyclopedia, and Star Trek animated series, and Star Trek universe in general, he actually was the first captain of the Starship Enterprise.
Even before Archer?
Yes, because Archer did not command NCC 1701. He commanded NX-01.
Right, because that was like the first.
Right. Now we're talking NTC 1701. So
Right,
Robert April, according to Star Trek canon, is actually considered the very first captain of that particular ship.
That particular ship. Oh.
From Robert April, and they actually have pictures of him in cartoon form online.
Wow. Were there any adventures at all written?
It's they're the animated series. Remember the animated series?
Right.
They talk about him.
Oh.
So Robert April went to eventually sign the ship over to Captain Pike, who eventually signed the ship over to Captain Kirk.
Right.
Captain Kirk signed the ship over to Captain William Decker, who was Star Trek The Motion Picture, the captain of the Enterprise in the beginning of the movie.
The movie, that's right.
Which Kirk eventually took the ship back from him.
Right.
And then also took the ship back from
right?
Captain Spock in the second movie.
Right.
So those are considered the 5 official captains of NCC 1701. And this is why I said you really have to know your Trek. Because those are considered officially those captains.
Yeah, I love that. Wow. Yeah, I would have not gotten that at all.
Yeah,
that was great.
I'm admitting this, but I do have a Star Trek encyclopedia that actually it was a gift.
I didn't actually go out and buy it.
I didn't buy it, but that actually shows Robert April and actually goes into that whole thing. And I knew this years ago, but it didn't dawn on me till I actually thought about this question. And then
you should use that encyclopedia for a lot of our trivia stuff.
Who says I didn't think about that? Nerd alert.
Encyclopedia. You can't touch this. So that's awesome. Cool. Well, thank you very much, George, for that trivia question.
Absolutely.
All right, folks, we want to thank you all for tuning in again. As always, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us on these Tuesday evenings. Please like, share, and subscribe. Also remember, go to our page, which is hold on, let me just get the page here. I haven't done that in a while. Counterpartsmerch.com, and get yourself one of these cool thingamajiggies here. We got hoodies, we got t-shirts, we got cell phone things and mugs and stuff, and that helps the channel. It also helps promote the show as well, and it's kind of fashionable as well. I think it looks pretty cool. Yes. All right, folks, we want to thank you for tuning in. So for George Batista and myself and everyone here at Counterparts, I want to thank you for tuning in. Take care of yourselves. See you next week. And as always,